So those are the rights of the accused. When we look at the rights of the victim, look at this in a bit more detail because it's less self-explanatory. Um, they're supported by the Victims Charter Act 2006. That's just optional to know. And the few that we have is the right to give evidence as a vulnerable witness. The study design is now calling it the right to give evidence via alternative arrangements, but it's the same thing, okay? The right to be informed about the proceedings. Obviously, that means the trial and what's happening. And the right to be informed of the likely release date of the accused person. So, just a different format, alternative arrangements, being informed about proceedings, and being informed about the likely release date of the accused. So we'll start with the vulnerable witness slash alternative arrangements one first. Basically, this right allows victims that are considered vulnerable to access certain ways to make it easier for them if they have to appear in court as a witness and give evidence. It tries to protect them and make the process easier for them, less intimidating and whatnot. So, what kind of victims of crimes would be vulnerable? Some great examples are if it's a child, so anyone under 18, if there is some kind of disability, especially any cognitive impairment, and victims of certain crimes. So if it's a crime where, you know, the accused person has actually physically hurt the victim, maybe sexual offenses as well as violent crimes, all of those things could lead that witness to be deemed vulnerable and grant them access to those alternative arrangements they can use in court. So some examples of extra provisions. One might be having a support person when giving evidence. We can imagine that being the case for maybe the child under 18. Having a support animal is one as well. They might try to make the court less formal by getting all of the legal personnel to disrobe and take off their formal wear, like their wigs. Or, for example, the vulnerable witness might be giving evidence through a short circuit TV in a different room, or they may just put a screen down so the victim doesn't have to see the accused or see the court, and the accused cannot see the witness either. Just giving you a different way. A couple other points mentioned. They could even close the court to the public. Maybe you've seen this, noticed this in some kind of movies and stuff where a child is the vulnerable witness and the child is like the only, and the child and the prosecution side and the accused side, they're the only people in court when the child is like giving a statement and being cross-examined later on. Okay, so the other rights of victims, everyone as a victim has the right to be informed about proceedings. To define this means being entitled to information regarding the investigation of the offense and the prosecution of the accused, and having court processes explained to them. So, the ability to understand court processes is one, and being kept up to date with any information about the trial in a nutshell. It's supported by a few different sections of the Victims Charter 2006. And basically what's happening when you need to explain this right for questions, the prosecution might actually sit down with victims and tell them about any developments in the case. For example, that they're going to proceed with a plea negotiation, potentially giving the accused a chance to plead guilty early on in the trial, for instance, and finish the trial, and other information to update about. So here's a more complete list. It could be the details of the charges made against the accused that the victim is informed of. So that means what exactly the accused person has been charged with, what crimes, okay? If no charges were made, why that was the case, how the victim can get the date, time, place of any of the hearings or the trial if the victim actually wishes to attend. Uh, that might be due to like wanting a sense of retribution, seeing justice being served, and then the outcome of the trial, the prosecution must also inform the victim of. So whether the accused was found guilty or not guilty or acquitted, just let go. And the details if there's any appeal challenge to the original decision. Okay. And our last one is the right to be informed about release date of the offender. So victims of crime are entitled to be informed when the perpetrator of a crime against them specifically is likely to be released from prison. So this is not one of those automatic rights that all victims have. You need to fit a certain profile as a victim in order to have this right to be informed about the accused person's release date. So this criteria you need to know. Um, the victim needs to be on the victim's register. This means they need to be a victim of a certain heinous or violent or sexual family violence crime in order to be informed about that release date. Okay? Only being a victim of one of these types of crimes or having a certain relationship with the accused can put someone on the victim's register so they receive this entitlement. And it can only apply, of course, as I've just explained, to certain offenses. So those usually involve assault or injury punishable by imprisonment. So that could be, those really violent or crimes of a sexual nature. And the way this right functions is the victim of one of these crimes that's on the victim's register will know at least 14 days before the accused person's release that they're going to be released. So, what information does it allow victims the entitlement of? You do need to know these as well, but it's the length of the prisoner's sentence. What is their actual sentence? How long do they have to be in jail for? The prisoner's earliest release date. So they may be released on parole. You'll hear a bit more about this term throughout the year, but their earliest release date would be the one they may be released on parole, or if they don't get released on parole, it will just be the length of the prisoner sentence, okay, that they have to serve in full. If they have been released on parole and they have been released at their earliest release date, the victim must be informed of this as well, and whether the prisoner has escaped. That would be very rare. But yeah, that summarizes this right.